Well, Happy New Year. That is under the list of approved songs for YouTube under the keywords of New Year. So I thought I would start us out with something kind of peppy and upbeat and just get us stoked up about 2024. Can you believe it? 2024 is just with us now. It's just arrived. And yet we're already looking to the future saying, wow, what a great year this is going to be. I hope that's the way you're looking at it. So many great things happening in the temporary workshop, so many great things happening in the world. We've got so much to be grateful for. And I'm grateful to be able to present this fabulous Japanese clone that is branded Midwest. You can barely see it on the pillar, off of the arm extended from the pillar. You can barely see the Midwest any longer. On the pillar, you can see the branding mark proudly displayed of Made in Japan. That's how these machines started out, coming out post-World War II, proudly branded Made in Japan. And then as the marketplace started kind of rebelling a little bit and recoiling from it because there were still really bad feelings about what happened with World War II and the bombing of Pearl Harbor and all the other stuff that went on, they started moving Made in Japan to other more discreet places on the machine. The inside of the pillar, the back side of the pillar, the right side of the pillar, and anywhere else they could tuck it. Some of the machines even were absent of it, except for a very, very subdued JA on the underside of the machine bed to designate that it came out of the country of Japan. Kind of a shame but totally understandable considering what a bitter fight World War II was and how it started out, with many, many lives being lost in Pearl Harbor. But that's the past, and this is the present. And as we look at a machine like this, we're in marvel of the fact of how much it resembles a Class 15 Singer model. Well, it should, because they used, over in Japan, the actual design architectural papers, the patent, the designs, all the particulars of the engineering of the machine are a mirror image of the Singer models. And those of you that don't know the history, Singer collaboratively, with a little bit of pressure from the government, gave up their designs and their patents and their architectural designs for these machines in an effort to help the Japanese rebuild their economy. It was part of the pacification program. Because of our bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of lives lost, devastating their economy. We tried to reach out after the war and show kindness and help them with at least a line of sewing machines, rebuild the economy and get it back on track. And you'll see again on the arm here, it's branded Midwest. Kind of makes you think of Wisconsin and the Twin Cities area, doesn't it? There's certainly other Midwestern areas as well, but that's what I think of right away when I think of the word Midwest. And the Japanese were very, very smart in coming up with clever names, Midwestern type names, American type names to brand their sewing machines with, to make them more appealing to Americans and to the American market. And I did a little bit of research before starting this premiere, and I came across a blog that I think has some good information on it, but it also has some information that is a bit misleading. I would say significantly misleading. And I'll talk a little bit more about that so you can check it out for yourself. And also I'll send a link to this blog to Susie so that she can post it into the live chat. But this particular blogger that I came across, let's see if I can find his name and his info. And I'll read some of the stuff that he wrote, which again I think is a little bit off target. And I always like to be an honest broker when I come across something that's spot on. I want to highlight it and share it with you, but I also want to share the stuff that I think is off the mark. I'll play the next song while I'm looking this up. I'm going to pause this song real quick. Okay, so this is a blog. It's a blog spot that I came across, and again, Susie will post the link in the live chat so you can check it out for yourself. It starts out by saying a large number of people have discovered the benefits of older sewing machines. That's kind of an obvious statement. Whether it's because they are simple enough to maintain and repair with common hand tools. Now, I take issue with that. he or she is really minimizing the complexity of sewing machines and being able to optimize them. And I think that this is a person that probably doesn't have much knowledge, if any hands-on experience at all, in working on sewing machines, or strong enough to sew thicker fabrics without hesitation, or just because they are plentiful, cheap, and fun to collect. Now, that some of those statements are true, but again, our focus at Cow Country is that machines have a deep intrinsic value. So we don't minimize them, and we don't put them in the categories of cheap stuff to collect. We put them in the category of priceless items to seek and to collect and to cherish. So I think that this person has a very casual attitude, at least in my opinion, a very casual attitude about what a vintage collector, especially a Cow Country vintage collector, looks like. Then they move into here. They're talking about Japanese clones of the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And they go on to say, shortly after World War II, Japan, with money from the United States, manufactured a large number of sewing machines. That's not entirely true. The main resource that the United States provided to the country of Japan was design and the techno knowledge on how to build sewing machines. There was a little bit of financial subsidizing, but because there was still so much tension within the American people about that war and the government getting involved in helping the country that had attacked our country without provocation, seemingly, and killed so many at Pearl Harbor, giving money back then was not an acceptable practice like it is today, where we can give people in other countries that are on our terrorist watch list, we can give them billions of dollars, and people just take it as business as usual now. Back in the 40s and 50s, it was an abomination to think about giving our hard-earned American dollars to people that attacked us and killed so many Americans. But we did give them plans and designs, and they used those to open up some factories over there to produce sewing machines that they sold primarily initially in the European marketplace and Southeast Asia, that neck of the woods, and then they moved on to try to market them in the United States. And but one of the things that this writer, this blog goes into that I have issues with is how large that manufacturing effort was in Japan. They go down further here. Let me see if I can find it. And apparently the person that writes this blog, the name of the person is Ed. No idea what Ed's last name is. But he writes on here that according to his research, and he doesn't give any references for this, according to his research, he believes that there was over 5,000 different brands that were rolled out by the Japanese, and that they were produced from approximately 15 different factory company locations. I dug and dug and dug, and I don't find anything to support that claim that the manufacturing effort was that large over in Japan. Their resources were very limited, and the Japanese approach to manufacturing things is to condense their talent, their efforts, their resources into one fine running machine operation that will produce the maximum number of machines at the cheapest rate, the fastest. And spreading it out over 15 different factory company locations just is not realistic immediately following that war. Resources alone to make sewing machines were very scarce. They were still very limited after the war ended, and so to be able to supply 15 factory locations with enough resources to have a viable operation to produce sewing machines just wasn't there. And so again, I don't know where Ed is getting his information. I would say out of thin air. And also, when it comes to claiming 5,000 different brands, I would say it's much closer to being in the hundreds, if that. Again, the Japanese only did this for about a decade following World War II, actively in an effort to rebuild the economy. and developing 5,000 different brands in that sort of period of time, and also all the Japanese clones that I've handled, that number just seems grossly exaggerated. So I wanted to bring that up, and again, you can look at it yourself and form your own opinions. Certainly, this writer is correct that different retailers that wanted to get their toe in the pond with sewing machines tapped into the Japanese market. Some of those included Macy's, Gimbals, certainly Sears with the Kenmore brands, and a variety of others. And others jumped on board with the Japanese as well going into the 1950s because they decided that it was a more economical way to sell and to market sewing machines and to have a larger profit margin. So I just wanted to share this just as a point of interest so you can kind of check it out for yourself through the link that we posted, and then come up with your own opinion about it. I'm not telling you that my opinion is the only opinion, but I'm telling you that this is something that was posted, I think, back in 2006. So it's been floating out there for quite a while, and it's like planting something in a garden. The longer it stays in the soil, the more it can cross-pollinate, the more it can propagate itself. And so for us to step out now and maybe clarify that this could be misinformation and exaggerated is hopefully going to rein people in a little bit more to realize that while the Japanese certainly did gain economically from our efforts in giving them the designs and patents to produce sewing machines, it was a very small part of their recovery when it came to their economy getting back up to a fair operating level. They had a lot of other industries going as well that were much more significant, much larger than sewing machines. So I don't want to over-exaggerate what the United States did, but at the same time, we did. We helped them out. And many people, again, objected to this, but it was the path that the government took in that pacification and rebuilding effort for the country that was our enemy. And so there you go. All right, let me put on a little bit more music. I'm going to kind of rest my voice for a second. I'm just recovering from being down and out for a couple of days. Some sort of a bug bit me hard. So I'm going to try to temper myself and regulate myself through this this premiere so that I don't lose my voice. And we'll take a look at these stitches in just a second or so that I just did on this Japanese clone, which I should give credit, I haven't even given credit yet, belongs to Tenielle and Scott out in the great state of Oregon. They have brought a number of machines to the workshop. The first one I believe was a FOF 130-6 that I sent back many months ago after finishing my work on it. Then there was the Spartan, the 192K, that is still in the temporary workshop and is going to be shipped back with this Japanese clone. Separate totes, obviously, but they're going to be heading that direction at the same time. And that will finish up my projects with Tenielle and Scott, who live out in Oregon, and they serve as physician assistants. I think I've talked about them quite a bit. So you'll get a chance to see this machine do its dance more. And I know that there are still people, even in the Cow Country family, that are poo-poo about Japanese clone machines. And maybe, again, it's patriotism and reflecting back to World War II or whatever it is. Maybe it's the condition of the maybe it's the condition of the auto market and how oftentimes the Japanese dominate the auto market as well. And maybe some of them are steel workers or auto workers, who knows what. But let me just tell you, keep your mind open. Keep your mind open as you look at this Midwest flavor Japanese machine that would have come out in the early 1950s, right after World War II wrapped up. And all I can say is I think you'll be impressed. And I know Tenielle, who is very busy as a physician assistant, but also loves quilting and is a wonderful seamstress, is going to have a lot of fun on this machine as well, along with her other collection of vintage machines. So a little bit of music, and then we'll roll forward and take a look at these stitches, etc. As a matter of fact, I'll get over on that side of the machine and we'll start to zoom in a little bit so I can hopefully show them to you shortly. let's cut that music off right now. Let's take a look at this stitching that we did. And I should explain the setup a little bit. And also I want to share some of the contents of an email that I received from a representative of Walmart, and share a little bit of that letter that was written by one of their executive board members. And it's relating to the needle that we're using today. That is a Walmart brand. That was confirmed in the letter, at least, the email. And the needle I'm referring to is the Hello Hobby needle that Walmart is private branding now as their own flavor of sewing machine needle. I don't know if that's focusing or not. It might be. There it is. I think it is now. And in one of the recent premieres, live streams, I presented this microtext version of the Hello Hobby needle, or as I refer to it kiddingly, the Hello Kitty needle. And the fact that I was impressed with it and that it performed much better than I had anticipated, especially after their universal one failed so badly in one of the previous live streams. It was struggling and just barely limping, and then I replaced it with a Schmetz needle, and all of a sudden that machine flashed its greatness again. So I still think that the Hello Hobby brand is finding its way, but the microtext needle, at least at this stage, is impressing me with the results that it did in the last premiere, and hopefully this one as well. So here's some of the sewing I just did with this Hello Hobby microtext needle, size 80, which equates to a size 12, so a little bit smaller than what we're accustomed to seeing on these live streams. Most of the time we're using a size 90-14, and that's pretty much our go-to needle. See if I can show it to you like this first. And what I'm sewing here is I'm sewing a single layer of quilt batting, and then I've also got the 2 layers of cotton as well. This would be the most typical setup for quilting. For quilting and for creating a quilt is going to be those layers of cotton coupled with some sort of batting. And you can see that the Hello Hobby needle really did quite a marvelous job, especially on this last row where I adjusted the upper tension down just a little bit, because I noticed that straight away the top stitch was a little bit underdefined, just a little bit underdefined, and the lock stitch was a lot poppier, so I took away a little bit of that power. Again, if you're brand new to sewing, the upper tension is going to define the lock stitch and take away from the top stitch. The bobbin case below is going to define that top stitch and take away from the lock stitch. In other words, they're in a constant tug of war. So we got some really good results, I think, here. Microtext needle is known for being an ultra sharp needle, so it really is an excellent choice when it comes to many forms of sewing, including quilting, and some great results there. If we turn it over and look at the lock stitch, I'll show that to you vertically as well. You can see right away what I mean by the poppiness. That lock stitch is significantly more poppy than that top stitch was, and that's where adjusting tension becomes necessary sometimes. Typically, you're going to do it from the upper tension unit and adjusting it down a little bit if you're getting a overly pronounced lock stitch and you're wanting that top stitch to pop more. Then you're going to adjust that upper tension down. And again, on a class 15 machine like this that was made in Japan, that upper tension unit is going to be just slightly out of view. I'll take the camera off the tripod. We'll take a closer look at it. And also the threading of this machine as well, which is a little bit tricky, just a little bit tricky. So if we go all the way over to this side of this Japanese clone machine that's branded Midwest, we can see that our upper tension unit is right here along with this matrix of threading, crisscrossing, and doing all the other kinds of fun stuff in the threading process of this Japanese class 15 clone machine. And that's why I think covering the threading of it might be beneficial to folks, because you'll get little snippets here and there from people, but you don't get a real clear picture from start to finish. So I'm going to try to do that right now. I'm going to show you from the spool of thread all the way down to the needle, and we'll look at it together, okay? So coming off the spool, which Yes, I'm using my go-to thread pretty much, my Coates & Clark Dual Duty XP thread that I get at Joann's, and I've been buying thread now in the Twin Cities area as I'm temporarily located here with the workshop, and I love going into Joann's because when you walk in there, especially during the holidays, every day of the week, you could walk in, and whether it's Coates & Clark or Gutermann thread, you could pick up 3 spools and they would drop 2 free ones into your bag. You know what I mean? Walking out of there with 5 spools of thread, you only paid for 3. If that doesn't put a skip in your step, I don't know what will, because that's a huge savings. And I love that Joann's is doing that, and I think they're continuing to do it into the new year. So off this spool of thread, we're going to come over here. There's interestingly going to be a thread guide on both sides of the faceplate. This one is one that you could possibly employ in winding a bobbin, but I think it was just quite honestly part of the stamping process, and they just went ahead and left it on there because you're not going to be threading through that one. You're going to be threading through this one over here on the left side of the faceplate. And then you're going to come straight down to the tension discs. Make sure your presser foot lever is in the up position when you do it. You're going to bring that thread through the discs around like this, and then behind this little thread guide and over the top of the thread guide, and then you're going to come through our take-up spring. You can see the take-up spring thread coming, and again the thread is over the top of here. I've seen people doing this wrong multiple times and they can't figure out why they're having issues with sewing. It's because they've got it threaded wrong. So make sure when you come through those discs from over on this side off the top, you come off the top, you come straight down to the discs, you come around the back side, and then you come behind this bar right here, and then you're going to come over the top of the bar through the check spring, the take-up spring, and then straight up to the take-up arm, threading it from left to right. Then you're going to come down through this thread guide right here on the faceplate, continue down another thread guide here, and then you're going to be threading this needle from left to right. And the flat side of the needle on this Japanese clone machine is going to be towards the pillar to the right. So make sure you put the flat side facing to the right. And then we've got the bobbin case as well. And when this is unwinding, it's going to be unwinding as you're holding the bobbin case in your hand. It's going to be unwinding counterclockwise in the sewing process, just so you know how to set that up as well. But it's really critical you get this setup on these machines right, because the engineering and design of this Class 15, the way it's set up with the tension on the faceplate, requires this return and relay of the check spring and the take-up arm working to define that stitching through the sewing process. And also because this is an oscillating hook system, you can see that classic design down there, it's going to pull that thread really hard when you initially launch. So just be aware and be ready with that. Make sure you've got a nice long tail of thread, and hold onto that thread just briefly as you're launching so that you can get a solid launch without that bird nesting on the bottom of the material. Okay? A quick walk around the machine. Start over here. This is going to be our feed dog drop over here. And also this Japanese Midwest version has different stages so that you can decrease the pull of the feed dogs. When you've got it set on U, that means that the feed dogs are all the way up, and then you can drop it down to stage 3. They're less up. Stage 2, they're less up even more. Stage 1, they're barely up, pulling very, very lightly. And then you can go all the way to the D on the far left, and that means the feed dogs are dropped all the way down for free motion quilting and freehand embroidery. So it's important that you understand that so you can enjoy the full benefits of your Japanese clone machine if it's set up with a similar tier process for reducing that feed dog pull. Then we've got over here, we've got our stitch length regulator. Right now you can see I'm right on about 12 stitches per inch approximately. As we sewed that shorter row of stitches, I'm going to move it all the way back down. And again, we're not going to be able to get down to 6 or 7 stitches per inch like on most of the Singer machines. This is only going to get down to probably closer to 7 to 8. It's not going to sew quite as tiny as some of these Singer equivalents. And you can look at the numbers there and Get a little bit of an idea of that. They've got the numbers going down, but I'm going to tell you that you won't get quite as small as the Singers. This is going to be a kind of a stopgap if you want to set different boundaries as far as the stitch length, etc. You can move this up or down like the other Singer machines, and it acts as a little stopgap for that stitch regulator not being able to move beyond those boundaries. Then we've got our bobbin winder right here. You just engage it by pushing it down like so. And when it gets done filling, it should disengage automatically, or just push this up. And also you've got a fine-tuning screw that once you push this down, if it's not making quite enough contact with the rim of that balance wheel, then you can go ahead and turn this a little bit clockwise so it bites in there a little bit harder if you're getting slippage. I think that this is a brilliant, easy, convenient way of adjusting that factor as the wheel becomes older, or if you get glazing on it, or you get oil on the inside of the rim, whatever it is. It's a wonderful, brilliant addition that the Japanese added to this machine design. And I really think it's quite spectacular. Yeah. And I think I'll actually wind a bobbin for you possibly while we're doing this premiere. Same clutch release on the side over here, so you can wind that bobbin. Going across the machine, not much to point out really. Not much to point out. We get over here to the presser foot pressure. It's got that wonderful quick release. If you want to take all the presser foot pressure away so you can slide something really thick underneath there, when you push this little tab, it pops up. And right now, at least temporarily, you've got no pressure on there, so you're able to manually raise this up and slide that really thick quilt or whatever that bulky material is underneath there. And once you get it into place with all that added clearance, you can see the difference. Then you can go ahead and reapply by just pushing this down in stages. If you're sewing real light materials and you don't want a lot of pressure, you stop up in this upper stage. If you're sewing something heavier, you keep pushing it down, and it keeps increasing that presser foot pressure more and more and more. Okay? Nice little oiling point here for the needle bar. Where am I? There I am. Nice little oiling point right here for the needle bar as well. Very convenient. Obvious oiling points across the top. Right here adjacent to the faceplate area, you've got additional 3 oiling points as you go across the machine. You got a couple little oiling points over here as well. I was checking, yep, there's one hidden right here underneath the spool pin as well. So just keep that in mind as you're lubing your machine up and getting her ready to sew and maintaining her. You've got a little hidden ones. And over here they have a FOF style closed port that lubricates and irrigates that main point of the main shaft as it goes across the machine. So here you've got to depress that little button down in a sense in order to get the oil in there to lube that critical point of the machine. Yeah. So we're starting out, we started out our launch on this Japanese clone, going down this 100% cotton, 2 layers of that with a quilt batting. And now we're going to be launching into some other sew-offs as well, and seeing what this Japanese clone can deliver with this Hello Hobby needle. Oh, I've got to also go over to my computer and read a little bit of this email that came from an executive at Walmart. Yeah. You zoom in on the machine and I'll read a little bit of this letter. See if I can open up Gmail here real quick. Okay, here it is. And it starts out, Dear Mr. Geller, want to tell you that we really enjoy your presentation of sewing machines. And while you may not know it, our president and CEO's family member, I think it's actually a mother-in-law, Doug McMillan. Doug McMillan's mother-in-law is a very, very avid sewer and quilter. And she watches your channel regularly. And she's enjoyed your presentation recently of the needles made by Walmart, the Hello Kitty needles, as you refer to them jokingly, our Hello Hobby brand, which we're now marketing worldwide. We're still working out some of the bugs with the needle, as you've highlighted in some of your live streams, but are very proud of the product and offering it at a more economical price than some of our competitors like Schmetz and the Singer brands. We hope you'll continue to test it over camera and under the lens of your channel, so we can celebrate successes you've had with our new product. Most sincerely yours, Susie Orditz, Vice President Business Development. And her last name is spelled O-R-T-I-Z. So that's kind of cool. It's kind of cool that the president and CEO of Walmart, Doug McMillon, is that it? Doug, wait, I just clicked away. Yeah, Doug McMillon has at least one family member, maybe more, that are really into sewing and watch our channel. So a quick shout out to Doug McMillon's mother-in-law, family, whoever watches the channel. It's great to have you with us, and it's great to have you with us as we're hopefully celebrating another successful premiere using Walmart's premier needle now, the Hello Hobby needle. And I am using the Microtex needle again because I've had success with it, and I really do want to give this brand a fair shake, even though everyone knows there's no hiddenness, there's no hidden agenda here, that I am an incredibly devoted Schmetz follower. I'm incredibly devoted to Schmetz, but I'm also wanting to open my horizons to new needles as well and give them an opportunity on this channel. So real quick, let me just wind a bobbin. We'll get that out of the way so I don't forget to do that. And I'll show you how to set that up, and then we'll get busy with some more sew-offs. Yeah. See if I get the right shot here. Yeah, it was kind of a surprise to see that. I thought it was like a solicitation. I almost dumped it and marked it as spam, and then I opened it up and I saw that it was a personal note from Sue on the executive team at Walmart. I think she's, let me take a look. I pulled up two different screens. She's like second in command, just below Doug McMillon. She's a big shot. And the fact that as a VP of business development, she took time to write me personally and to share with me the things that she shared, I think is super. It speaks loudly to me about the quality of that executive team at Walmart, doesn't it? I think it does. Really impressed. Okay. So when you're winding a bobbin on one of these Japanese clones, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move our spool off the top and grab a secondary spool so that I don't have to unthread this machine. It's a little bit of a challenge. And we'll wind a quick bobbin on this machine. Excuse me. Like I said, if I lose my voice, I lose my voice. I hope I don't. But I was really down and out for a couple of days. Had a fever and just all kinds of yucky stuff going on. So it's good to feel almost back to my strength again. Almost back. Okay, so I'm going to grab another spool of this Coats & Clark XP thread. Going to get this on here. You're going to take this and you're going to go right over here through this thread guide. Again, I can only imagine that the Japanese were thinking that someone might come all the way across the machine, which really doesn't make a lot of sense to do a bobbin winding on this machine. But that's the only explanation I have on why it's double stamped, the faceplate, with two thread guides on either side of it. And then I'm going to grab one of our Class 15 bobbins. And a quick warning about Class 15 bobbins, they're not all equal. And some of them are going to be manufactured as a remake, and the inner diameter is not going to fit on your mount right here. It's going to be too small. So just be aware that as you're getting bobbins for your Class 15 machine, whether it's a Japanese made one like this, Midwest, or whether it's an American Singer machine or something equivalent to that, that really is a factor. Some of them you'll get about right to here and they won't go any further. So whenever you can go with original, it's great to go with original and get it set up for success straight away. And then what I always do is I kind of take the bobbin off a little bit and I give it a couple of pre-winds, wind it towards myself. It tends to give you a little bit better result when you're launching. Get that back on there and get that fit in that little pin so it fits into your bobbin all the way. That bobbin slides all the way in, and then you can engage that bobbin winder. Disengage the clutch on the end. Okay, go ahead and hold onto that thread, and you can begin the winding process with this. And just watch your speed. After working and rewiring this motor on Tenielle's machine, it's got a lot of get up and go. And you can see what just happened. I had been messing around with this fine tuner over here, and the bobbin winding tire is not making contact, so we're not winding a bobbin right now. See that? So I just turned this little finer tune inner a little bit and see if we make contact now. There we go. And I always keep a finger on here just so it doesn't skip off. Now when you're winding your bobbin on here, if you're getting a nice even wind across there where the thread is being distributed properly, I'm going to zoom in real close to show you. You're getting a real nice even distribution of that thread, then you've got it adjusted right. Right now we've got a real nice even distribution, but if you're getting a heavier concentration on the left side or on the right side and it's not even, if you don't know this, most of you do, but this is your adjuster right down here. There's a small screw just on the other side. There's a small screw just on the back side of this tensioner that allows you to slide this right or left. So if you're getting a heavier concentration on your bobbin on the right side, then you're obviously going to slide this to the left a little bit to offset that distribution so that the thread is moving further to the left. Same thing is if you're getting a heavier concentration on the left, you're going to adjust this to the right a little bit so that that thread is evenly distributed then on the right side until you find that sweet spot, right? You got to find that sweet spot so it's being distributed evenly. But we'll finish winding this bobbin, and then Tenielle will have another one wound already and can enjoy the sewing without any delays even more so. I'll just keep winding it and watch the movement of that thread. You'll see what I mean by its even distribution. And this is true of any sewing machine you're sewing with to keep that thread even. If the thread is not even, then it will have issues in the bobbin case, and you'll have issues with thread breaking and also stitch quality. The only exception to having the thread evenly all the way across is if you are working with certain types of long bobbins or barbell bobbins, especially the earliest ones that were part of the, say, the 12K class. With those, they work much better if you have higher raised edges on the barbell bobbin and it kind of plateaus towards the middle. It shouldn't be overly dramatic, but the outside edges should be a little bit higher to allow the better feed in a vibrating shuttle. So just be aware that if you've got an older vibrating shuttle style one, you'll want to take that into account when it comes to setting that machine up for success. Okay? All right, let's finish winding this bobbin and then we'll jump into some more sewing. And just listen to this machine run. It is so ridiculously whisper quiet now. And that's our stop point right there. I can hit the gas, and you can see now we're stopped. So go ahead and pop this out, give it a clip, and then we've got another bobbin. And by the way, I'll put that back on real quick just to demonstrate something. Depending on how your bobbin release is adjusted, depending on how it's adjusted, when you get to this point, it's as full as it's going to get. But you might want even a more full bobbin, and that's okay. I'm trying to adjust the camera reaching backwards here. You may want it even fuller than that. You can certainly do that by pushing on this mechanism right over here. Let me see if I can adjust this out a little bit. By pushing this in right here, we can bypass this release and you can continue sewing. At least I'm hoping we can do that. I'm going to give it a go. So if you want a more if you want a more full bobbin, when it reaches that stopping point, if you've got a similar setup like this on your Japanese machine, just apply pressure right here and it will offset that release so that you can fill that bobbin just a little bit fuller. I think most people like their bobbins real full, and that's the easiest way to do a bypass on that. All right, move this to the side. I'm going to put on a little bit more music, and we will jump into our next sew-off. And I hope everyone's having a great start to the new year. Mine has been very, very busy and very interesting. All right, that was Everglow. Everglow. I feel like I'm doing a radio station here. That was Everglow, and before that we had Rewind and Grut. Who would name a song Grut? I have no idea, but that's what they did. So, let's see here. Let's go ahead and launch into our next sew. I think since we started with cotton, we'll go ahead and move through some more cotton now. I've got this 100% cotton that I do buy at Walmart primarily. And I buy it in their fat quarters. It gives you a good chunk of material to do sew-offs with. It usually comes in this type of form. Most of you, I'm sure, have bought this before. It's by Waverly. Let's see if I can get this in the shot or not. This is the brand that I buy anyway from the fat quarters to use for the cotton sew-offs. 100% cotton. It's good stuff, and it gives you about 18 by 21 inches of material, so that you can get quite a few sew-offs with this Waverly Fat Quarter brand. And I like the way it presents stitches as well. It does an excellent job, I think, of showcasing the beauty of the stitches and giving us a real appreciation for that machine. Yeah. All right, so let me try to get this lined up again. The camera has a little bit of a waver to it. See if I can get it nice and stable. There we go. And I think what we're going to do now is we're going to sew off on our 8 layers of cotton. That's a nice number. I like that number as far as showing the strength of the machine in relation to a material that people generally consider pretty easy peasy. I mean, even the new plastic machines you can buy at major retailers can get through most cotton materials. But when you get up to 8 layers, it raises the stakes a little bit higher, you know what I mean? So I'm going to go ahead and fold this to get us up to 8, and then we'll see how this Japanese clone does with this. Let's see here. So there's 2, 4, 6, 8. I didn't do too bad. It's a pretty good folding job. I wouldn't say it's brag-worthy, but it's out there. All right, so 8 layers of 100% cotton from this fat quarter that I showed you. And we will see how this Japanese clone does with this sew-off. And again, I've talked about adjusting that presser foot pressure and how essential that is in delivering stitches that are representative of the stitch length that you've got set on the machine. If you don't have enough presser foot pressure and you set it, say, on 6 to 7 stitches per inch on a Singer machine, you're only getting probably 7 to 8 if the presser foot pressure is too light, maybe even worse than that. So always make sure you adjust your presser foot pressure. Right now we've got 8 layers of cotton, so I'm going to leave it set on a higher setting. If you look on the top of the machine right now, you can see I've got that down quite a ways. We could still go further up here, but we're down quite a ways, and when I lift up the presser foot pressure lightly, I can feel that there's ample pressure down, so I think we'll be good to go. All right, so I'm going to go over here. We'll come in just a little bit. There we go. I think that's a pretty good shot. And you can also see from the edge as well an appreciation for 8 layers of cotton. It's a fairly heavy sew-off, even for a strong Japanese clone machine like this. And I better re-engage my clutch, otherwise we're not going to go anywhere. I just did that on the other side. All right. And again, when you're launching with a machine that has an oscillating hook, like this Japanese clone machine from the 1950s, realize that oscillating hook, because it's working like a pendulum from side to side instead of going full circle like a rotary, it's going to be more demanding of pulling that thread to complete that stitch process when you first launch. And so you'll want to take that into account, have a long enough tail off of here, and also maybe hold that thread just for a microsecond as you're launching so that it keeps that thread out of the way of the needle and you don't get that little bird nesting at the beginning of that stitch line. Okay? So just keep that in mind. Let's give this a launch. Give this machine a listen. And then we'll continue on with some other sew-offs. All right, here we go. Again, we're sewing with Walmart's private brand of needles, Hello Hobby needles. Apparently used by the president and CEO's family members that are into sewing and quilting, etc. And yeah, it really gives you an appreciation, I think, for what some of these other needles are capable of delivering for various types of sewing. It gives you other options, doesn't it? It gives you other options. So we just did a stitch row on the maximum setting, and I'm actually going to measure this just to see what we're getting. But first of all, I'm going to do one other stitch line, probably around 12 stitches per inch, somewhere in that realm. And we'll check those out as well at the same time. All right? All right, here we go. Yeah, such a smooth runner, such a smooth running machine. She had so many issues going on when she got to this temporary workshop, and she is just such a happy girl now. She's going to be so excited to meet Tenielle out in Oregon and really celebrate her greatness out there. See, this is one of those little, if you can see that in the shot, this is one of those little things that you get if you're a little bit careless like I was on that last launch, and you don't hold that thread initially. The needle will sew over that thread a little bit as it pulls it aggressively to support the function of that oscillating hook. I'll just leave that the way it is so you can see that as an example of what happens if you don't hold onto the thread for a bit at the launch time. All right. See if I can set this up against the needle. I haven't done this for a while, and we can take a look at these this way, and then I can go up by the camera and actually zoom in so we can look at them as closely as we can. And I think that's pretty good. So again, if you came to this live stream premiere with kind of a poo-poo attitude about Japanese clones, I hope that your opinion is shifting a little bit as you listen to this machine and you see it sewing and the results it's delivering. I think your attitude may shift a little bit, and you'll consider this as a machine to add to your collection. I hope it is anyway.
All right, so let's zoom in, start right there. Some beautiful, beautiful stitch quality. And again, we're sewing with the Walmart brand Hello Hobby. Um, and I think it's delivering some really solid results. Again, when you're sewing with a Microtex needle, it's ultra sharp and it's known for delivering good looking top stitching, but it also can throw things off a little bit when it comes to that lock stitch, depending on the material you're sewing. So, get ready if you use a Microtex, get ready for possibly needing to make some tension adjustments. All right, let's take a look at this go across. Yeah, beautiful stitching. And we backed off that upper tension a little bit, and you can see that top stitch is popping through much nicer now. Getting a lot better definition on that top stitch. And again, if you look at the edge right there, you get kind of an impression. 8 layers of cotton, that's a serious sew-off. That's a serious sew-off for sure. Some beautiful, beautiful results. Beautiful results. Yeah, I like it. Page 34. Page 34 stitching using this 1950s Japanese clone machine. And again, we're sewing with Coats and Clark dual duty XP thread. And we're using the Walmart brand of Hello Hobby Microtex needle, size 8012. Size 8012. And really loving the look of these stitches. Really quite lovely. All right, let me spin this over and we'll look at that lock stitch. I really like kind of holding the material more than doing this, but I'll do this time and show them to you. Yeah, let's take a look at these two. So there's our top stitching. We'll kind of go across this way. It's a little piece of fluff on there. And look at that smaller of the two stitches. Really, really, you can see that poppiness on here big time. That poppiness just screams. So this needle is doing a good job. This Microtex needle by Walmart, doing quite a nice job. All right, now I'm going to pick this material up and actually hold it up. I kind of like doing that more, but here you can see the totality of the stitching on the lock stitch as well. Come out a little bit and I'll see if I can hold this up, because I'm an old-fashioned guy. We'll hold it up and you can see it better that way, I think, sometimes than when I'm leaning against the machine like this. And I used to do that all the time. Let's see here. All right, so I think this is our top stitching first. We'll take a look at that. I'm going to show it to you vertically. I might have to zoom in more. Hold on a second. See if the camera's able to adjust to that. Ha ha! I'm not having much success, am I? No. Let's try it like that. Well, maybe I will be regulated. Let's see. Let's try it from here. It's like a comedy act here. We'll get this eventually. Is that our happy distance right there? I can't get closer than that? I should be able to get closer than that. Well, what did I do before? Because I had it vertically. Let me see if I can adjust this while I'm looking at it. And it could be the lighting too. The lighting's a little goofy right here. There, I think we got it now finally, didn't we? Got it finally now. Ha-ha! Persistence, right? Don't give up in this new year. You're going to encounter obstacles. Some of them are situations, some of them are people, and you just have to mull right over them. Just keep going, right? So there's our top stitching. Kind of gives you a different perspective when we look at it vertically. Really quite lovely. Quite lovely. And our lock stitching. Turn it over and look at that lock stitching. Yeah, very
Very, very nice. So far we haven't sewn a wide field of materials yet. We've only sewn on cotton. That's it. But off camera I did test a few other things, and we'll replicate these again as we continue through the sewing process. A little bit of music real quick, give my voice a rest, and then we'll move forward. That's really a cool song. That's called Christmas Homecoming. I know we're past Christmas now, we're into a new year. Even though this is pre-recorded while we're still in December, we're in the new year now as we're viewing this premiere. But it still feels like Christmas, doesn't it? Especially if you haven't gotten much snow like here in the Twin Cities, and all of a sudden you start getting snow in January and February. It feels like you're pretty much back in December, doesn't it? So I don't think it's ever off timing or anything like that to celebrate Christmas and the beauty of the season. What I'm going to sew now, and you've seen this material before, I've used this a couple of times, it's an upholstery material. And it's made from 55% recycled nylon and 45% polyester. I showed you that label before. So whenever you're dealing with upholstery material, you can pretty much assume that that upholstery material is going to be a little bit of a challenge to a machine just because of its weave and composition. So we're going to try to go through these 2 layers of this upholstery material. It's not a big challenge for this machine to get through it, especially with a sharp Microtex needle, but nonetheless we're also going to be looking at stitch quality as well. We'll see how we maintain that tension factor as we're going through an upholstery material versus a much softer, less woven type cotton material. All right, let's give this a try, and then we'll continue on with some other sew-offs after this. And I'll do a better job, hopefully, of holding my thread this time. And the oscillating hook system, I've mentioned this numerous times in other live streams and premieres on this channel. The oscillating hook system is such a brilliant system when it comes to giving you the capacity to sew with heavier threads. Whether you're using standard polyester type thread, or you move into some of the specialty threads like the Kevlar threads, oscillating hook system is much more forgiving of sewing with that type of thread than, say, a rotary hook system where it needs to bring that thread all the way around full circle. Oh, I didn't do something on this other one either. Let me move this over here for a second. I wanted to measure to see what length we're getting from this Japanese machine. We've got the correct presser foot pressure, and it should give us a good idea of what this machine is delivering. I'm saying it's probably going to be closer to 8 stitches per inch, but maybe we'll be surprised. We'll see. Let me grab this tape measure. And this again is the 100% cotton that we just sewed, the 8 layers. So this, with 8 layers of cotton, it should give us a real good idea of how this machine is delivering instead of our super light sew off. So this is a bit surprising. I'm going to double check to see that I'm doing this correctly. This Japanese clone machine, after the workshop magic, is actually delivering better than other Japanese clone machines I've had on the old workbench over the years. Typically you're going to get around 7 to 8 stitches per inch. We're actually getting spot on 6 stitches per inch from this Japanese clone, and that's with 8 layers of 100% cotton. So the thicker you go, the more issues you have with feed. And with our feed factor, our presser foot setting right now, we are delivering equal to what the Singer machines are said to be able to deliver. So that's really quite impressive. We're getting some great results with the cotton. We'll see if we can maintain that as we go through some of the other materials. We might lose some of that, and that's to be expected. So I'm going to throw that back. That's really great news, though. 6 stitches per inch through 8 layers of 100% cotton. That's really quite brilliant. All right, so we just sewed this upholstery material, and again, it's 55% recycled nylon, 45% polyester. Now we're going to reduce our stitch length again, right around 12 stitches per inch, somewhere in that neck of the woods, and we'll buzz down this material again and see what results we get. Okay? All right, and give a listen to this machine so you can appreciate the fine engineering built into this Japanese clone. Okay, here we go. Yeah. All right, give this a clip. Yeah, it's interesting as you change material types and you change stitch length, it has an impact on your top stitching or your lock stitching. Generally, if you're sewing most materials, you're going to need less upper tension to define that top stitch. In other words, you're going to have to reduce it than if you're sewing much heavier materials. There's a little bit more space for that knot to find its place. But as you're sewing through a material like this, we could get even a more poppy top stitch by backing that upper tension off even a little bit more than we have already. You'll see what I mean when we look at them. But still some beautiful, beautiful stitching. Put a little bit more music on and then we'll move into a song called Ammo, like firearms ammo. It'll be interesting to see what this sounds like. And again, it came up under New Year's songs. Hopefully that doesn't reflect the condition of our society. What did I do? I hit something. Uh-oh. Let me try that again. I'm going to back up the camera just a little bit so I get a little bit more even light. This red material is really going to be a challenge, I think.
right, let me come off the tripod real quick. I'm going to try to hold this while I'm holding the camera to get a little bit more control over the distance. This is our top stitching. Be like this. This camera does not like red. It does not like red material at all. I would say it despises red material. Alright, so we have some beautiful top stitching. It's kind of hard to see it because the camera's having a lot of trouble focusing on this red, but I'm doing the best I can to show it to you. Yeah, I wish you were in the workshop. You could look at it close up and you can see it's got some really, really good looking stitching. Yeah, very nice. All right, I'm going to turn it over, look at the lock stitching. Look at it like this vertically first. This is our lock stitching. And again, I want to point out that I think that we could back off that upper tension even further on this material. We're talking 55% recycled nylon. We're talking about 45% polyester. Those are two ingredients in the recipe for this material that really do present challenges when it comes to maintaining good stitch tension balance. But even on this lock stitch, we're still getting some really, really good results from this Japanese clone machine, both with our top stitching and also with our lock stitching as well. So, but we can always improve things, so there certainly would be steps we could take to increase the clarity of that stitch even beyond what it is. But some really, really good results. There's another good shot of the stitching and also the top stitching as well. A little bit weak on the top stitch, but still a very, very lovely stitch at the same time. Yeah, so let me throw that to the back. So far we've gone through 100% cotton. We've gone through a nylon and polyester blend with a heavier concentration on the recycled nylon. And now we're going to focus on some of this stuff that's made to look like it is what? I'm going to put the camera back on the tripod. It's made to look like fleece, isn't it? It looks like fleece, but it's actually 100% polyester. I'll get a closer shot of that so you can see it. 100% polyester made to look like fleece. Looks just like fleece, feels like fleece, but it's not. So we'll sew this next. We've sewn this on a couple of the other premieres live streams as well. It's a fun material to sew, a little bit challenging because of the weave and the density of it, the way they process this polyester to resemble the fleece material. They've got to take it through a very specific processing type manufacturing to get it to go that way. All right, how about a song called Everglow, Everglow. All right, that was the Everglow song, kind of like Everglades or something. I feel like we're going to Florida. But let's sew this 100% polyester material now. It really is fascinating to me how through processing it and manufacturing it in a specific way, they can make it look identical, nearly identical to a fleece type material. And they're selling them at Dollar Trees as scarves. So if you don't want to spend the big bucks on buying a real fleece scarf, you can be a cheapie like me and go to the Dollar Tree and buy one for $1.25, wear it around, and everyone is going to be envying you, not knowing you spent $1.25 on it. I think that's fun. It's always fun to surprise people with the value we can get when we're smart shoppers, right? All right, so let's sew down this 100% polyester made to look like fleece, and we'll see what we think of this one. All right, here we go. And remember to hold the threads, Scott. Hold the threads. Yeah. And interestingly, as we move again between a field of materials and materials that are similar but processed differently, so they interact with the needle and the machine differently, you're dealing with a puffy fleece type polyester like this. It requires a little bit more upper tension. So we've been dialing the upper tension back so that we can have a more pronounced top stitch. Now as we move into this fake fleece material, that's 100% polyester, we would have to, if we were sewing a ton of this, we would have to dial that upper tension back up just slightly to offset for the material type. You'll see what I mean when we look at it. It's very subtle, but it's obvious to me being this close to it. All right, another stitch line. We'll go a little bit shorter this time than 12. We'll go closer to 15 stitches, almost 20 stitches per inch. Real high up there. And again, as I'm adjusting the stitch length, I'm moving my lever on the right side. I know we've got some folks that are just beginning with vintage sewing machines, so I don't want to assume too much. You can see right now I'm right around between 15 to 20. And then if I go above that demarcation line right here, and I go above that, I'll be sewing in reverse. I didn't point that out when we did our walk around the machine. Push it all the way up, you'll be sewing in reverse. All right, let's get close to this, but not too close. There we go. All right, we'll put on a little bit more music while we're sewing this next stitch line for fun. This is Everglow. And I'm going to bump up the upper tension just a little bit to offset for the material type. All right, here we go.
That's fun. Well, this Japanese clone machine is continuing to impress me. I almost said oppress. This Japanese clone machine is continuing to impress me with delivering some great stitch length regulation. And it's because the feed dog system on these Japanese clone machines is really quite outstanding. They did model it greatly after the Singer ones, with a small little modification as far as how far those feed dogs come up. So when you're dealing with material like this fleece that is a little bit bulkier, it's got that cushiness to it, you need feed dogs that are going to have that depth of reach to feed this material more easily and more evenly. I was surprised when I just measured the stitch length on the longer stitch that we did first. I expected to find around 7 stitches per inch. That would still be really quite good for sewing this 100% polyester fleece material, because it's so cushy. It allows that material to shift and pivot a little bit as it's going underneath the presser foot and over the feed dogs. But you know what? We still maintain almost spot on 6 stitches per inch, even sewing 2 layers of this material. That's really impressive in my book. Singers will typically slip a little bit and you'll get closer to 7 stitches. Some of the Singers, if the feed dogs are not adjusted properly, you'll get even 8 stitches on a sew-off like this. This Japanese clone nailed it and maintained perfect stitch integrity through the cotton with the quilt batting. We've consistently been getting 6 stitches per inch, which is, I mean, that's amazing. It truly is. But again, the Japanese built very good machines, and they even improved on some of the designs that they got from Singer, including the design and the feature of the feed dog system. So you get some amazing results from these clones. So again, if you started this premiere with a poo-poo attitude about Japanese clone machines, I hope you're starting to pivot a little bit and give some reconsideration to this great machine that could be a part of your collection. I mean, remember Susie's Kenmore, made in Japan. It's the only machine that she turns to for 99% of her sewing needs. And she has done everything with that machine, and it just continues to perform after 50 years of heavy use. And yes, it got some workshop magic back in Okanto. If you saw that live stream where Susie came to the workshop with her Japanese Kenmore, and I ran it through a light degree of paces compared to my regular service, but Susie walked away saying the machine is like it's brand new. So Japanese machines were built to last. They were meant to last for a lifetime. The only fallback you get sometimes with these machines are the ones that came immediately after the war in the late 1940s and really early 1950s, where they were still using salvaged Navy metal to build the machines. Then you run into rust issues with these machines where they rust from the inside out. But even that can be mitigated with regular treatments of kerosene to you basically exacerbate that problem with the rust infecting the machine. So anyway, let's take a look at these stitches. Put on a little bit more music as we're doing that, and we'll keep going forward. All right, we already heard that one. Let's go to a New Year's song, a real New Year's song. Maybe a real New Year's song, I don't know.
All right, I'm going to come off the tripod again. I think that's going to give us the best chance of getting a focused picture of the stitches. That lower row, I may have to pull that apart so you can see it more easily. Let's go like this first. Maybe if I hold it like that, you can still see it. I'm guessing we're right around 20 stitches per inch on that shorter stitch. Well, you can see the stitch quality. We've got a real nice balance right now. We backed off that upper tension a little bit more, and we really are giving that top stitch a chance to shine. All right, I got to set the camera down. I've got to set the camera down so I can show you those smaller stitches by zeroing in from the tripod.
There we go. Those are beautiful, beautiful stitches, aren't they? But this woolen polyester made to look like fleece really hides them. It really kind of conceals the beauty of those smaller stitches until we pull it back. Lovely, lovely stitches. Let's turn over and look at the lock stitch as well. See if I can hold it like this and show you both at the same time. There we go. And you can see, even though I backed off that upper tension, this woolen material, you've got to really, really regulate that tension carefully because of its density and its weave and the way it's manufactured. It really plays havoc with that tension. But here we're getting a really, really nice looking poppy lock stitch at a setting of around close to 20 stitches per inch. Really quite spectacular. Oops, I'm off camera a little bit. There we go. Trying to find the right angle and the right lighting. Look at those. Aren't they gorgeous? You can see the larger stitches quite easily, but if I get just the right angle with just the right lighting, you can really appreciate just how spectacular those tiny stitches are as well. And when you're trying to complete the hook process in such a shorter time period and lay down more stitches, it really can create more of a challenge on tension than when you're sewing the longer stitches. And we're getting some great results, so aren't those gorgeous? Really quite gorgeous. We get the right angle, you can appreciate how spectacular this Japanese clone is doing the job. solid page 34, solid page 34 plus. So this woolen type material, it's made to look like fleece. Absolutely spot on stitching. We did this 100% cotton with the quilt batting, beautiful stitching as well. This 55% recycled nylon with 45% polyester. Let me change my camera shot a little bit. Here we go. So that was our quilt batting. Beautiful job on that. Our nylon and polyester, heavy concentration of nylon in this 55%. And then our 8 layers of cotton material already. We've already run this Japanese clone through more of a sew-off sandwich and more of a sewing Olympics than most people do at the sewing centers and the sewing vacs and the mom and pop stores when they get done supposedly doing a full service on their customer's machine. They do a simple little stitch line, boom, they're done. And it hardly tests the capabilities and hardly gives any chance to that machine at all to demonstrate greatness. And that's why we do things differently in these premieres and live streams. I want you to really fall in love with these machines as I present them. Many of you, after a live stream or a premiere, when I've introduced a machine for the first time, will go out on the hunt and start looking for that machine because you've seen the best of that machine. But I want to emphasize again that when you go out and pick up that machine, as many of you have experienced, and then you fall into a little bit of melancholy, a little bit of a disappointment because the machine is not doing what you saw that identical machine supposedly doing on that live stream, it's because of the workshop factor. It's because of the workshop magic. So if you love a machine after watching a live stream premiere, that's awesome. Get one, but have them send it directly to the workshop, as many of you have done, so that I can give it that greatness factor, that workshop magic, before you ever touch it and sit down with it, so you have no interim of melancholy, no disappointment, no regret as you're sitting down at the machine and it's not doing what you saw me do in a live stream or a premiere. It all comes down to the like we used to say in the service, in the military, prior planning prevents poor performance. There were a couple of other P's in there. I always leave them out to be family friendly. But the process that a craftsperson takes a machine through determines the outcome you're going to get from that machine. My process, 12 to 14 hours on a machine like this, is going to give you the greatest outcome, the greatest opportunity to flash the greatness of that machine that you won't see on other channels. You won't see other channels doing what I do either in running through a wide array of sew-offs. And we've got more to go. We've got more to go. All right, a little bit more New Year's Eve type music. It's hard to believe, but the material we're about to sew is the same material as this made to look like fleece material. These are both 100% polyester, but because of the composition and the manufacturing of them being so different, they're going to respond differently to the machine, to the needle, to the tension, and all the other factors. So what I just did off camera is I bumped up the upper tension a little bit from where we had it on this made to look like fleece material for this polyester material. Polyester, but because of the way they're designed and built and manufactured, they're going to respond differently to your machine. So expect that, even though it's the same material. All right, let's stop there. I'm going to go ahead and sew off on this other style of polyester now. It's a very sheen, slippery polyester, and it just shows you with the technology and the mastery in manufacturing that we have now, you can take and start with the same material, and through the process of milling it, manufacturing it, processing it, etc., give it an entirely different micro makeup in how the material will respond to your sewing. So don't be shocked if you jump from one material to another. It's the same material by name, but your machine responds to it very differently. We're going to experience that probably with this sew-off as we go through it. So here we go, 100% polyester, kind of a holiday Christmassy type material you might use on tree skirts or something like that. Very, very different from that made-to-look fleece polyester that we just sewed a moment ago. All right, so here we go. All right. Yeah, I'm glad I made that adjustment. I'm very glad I made that adjustment. Because as I'm looking at this right now, we've got a very, very nice looking top stitch through this real delicate, almost petite type polyester. And our lock stitch would have been sacrificed, but we made that adjustment on the tension. I'm going to leave it the same way it is, because as we try to deliver a shorter line of stitches now, it's going to need just as much upper tension to maintain that lock stitch. I'm not going to go quite as short this time, probably 10 to 12 stitches per inch, somewhere in that neck of the woods. All right, here we go. Oops. I almost made a mistake. I looked near the faceplate because normally our take-up arm is right in our face, right at the front of the machine, and we can hardly miss it, although some people still do. We can hardly miss it. But on the machines that have moved the upper tension to the faceplate, they did that so it was out of our line of view. It gave us a clearer line of sight to the stitching. So they tucked it in right over here, but we sometimes lose focus then of where the take-up arm is. Right now it's in the down position, and where it needs to be is at the highest point, getting ready to go down on that downstroke. So I'm rotating it, rotating it, rotating it, rotating a little bit more, and we're right at the peak right now. And right now it's starting to go on that downstroke. See that? That applies to whether you're sewing with an oscillating hook system like this or a rotary hook system like on your featherweight. You always want to try to launch, if possible, at the highest point. Now, if you're already in the middle of a project and you need that needle down factor, then just rotate that needle down, and you might have to give, to have the smoothest start, you might have to give it a little bit of a hand boost. But generally, starting at the very top is going to give you the most smooth, even launch on any sewing machine. So just keep that in mind as you're working through your fleet of machines and enjoying success with them. All right, over here. See how the camera's kind of like coming to life. It's going, hey, I'm not done moving yet. I'm not done moving yet. All right, so now we're going to do that next stitch line. It'll be about 10 to 12 stitches per inch. And we'll see what we think of these stitches when we look at it through this sheeny type material. All right. All right, here we go. All right, let's give these stitches a look now and see what we think, huh? And again, you'll notice the tail that I'm leaving on that thread is quite long. You don't have to leave it quite as long when you're dealing with a rotary hook system as the oscillating, because that rotary is not going to be quite as demanding of pulling that thread at the launch. Okay, so let me get down here with the camera again and see if we can get a nice clear view of these
stitches. Thankfully, with this type of polyester, unlike the one that's made to look like the fleece material, this one we don't have to pull the stitches back because it's a very flat material the way it's been manufactured. It doesn't have that depth and that woolen type look to it, does it? All right, let's check this out, see what we think. This is going to be our top stitching. I'm going to lean it against there for a second, see if I can get nice and close and get the right angle, because of the sheen of that material is going to make it a little bit harder for us to see those stitches, I think. Let me change hands. Actually, that's not bad if I just lay it on the bed of the machine like that, is it? That's actually quite nice. Let's just move it closer to the edge. And I'll see if I can go across on these and give you a clear picture of the stitch quality on this real slippery and I would say semi-challenging polyester material. Nice even stitches. The formation, especially if I show them to you at an angle so you can see the depth of the stitch a little bit more. Just have to get the right lighting to do that. Let's see if I can angle it just a little bit. There we go. We get away from that reflection and that sheen. It makes a big difference in being able to see that stitch quality, doesn't it? Beautiful, beautiful stitches. And again, there's certain adjustments you have to make when you move from one type of polyester to another to accommodate for the composition of that material. Lay it down again. From a little bit more of an angle. The camera has a lot of trouble with certain colors, doesn't it? Certain colors really just, they reflect that light in a certain way where the camera has a challenge seeing it. See if we can go vertical. I'll see if I can hold it and show you the vertical of it. But I really want you to see the beauty of these stitches on a fairly tricky material. This 100% polyester stuff that's typical at Christmas time is real tricky stuff to sew. There we go. That's a little bit better angle. You can see the curvaceous lines of those stitches. They're really quite lovely. It's a heck of a material to see, though, isn't it? It's really tough. All right. Let's turn it over and look at the lock stitch now. And again, we've got two layers of this Christmassy type material. 100% polyester. Turn it like this first. Lovely, lovely stitching. And I didn't go quite as short on that second row as I thought I had gone. Not quite 12 stitches per inch. See that if I change the camera angle, the sheen of that, all of a sudden the stitches pop out, don't they? All of a sudden the stitches pop out and say, I'm here, I'm here. Kind of like Horton Hears a Who. We are here, we are here. You just have to get that light to stop reflecting off us because it makes it impossible to see us, doesn't it? There they are. Looking rather lovely. Yeah, beautiful stitching. So beautiful stitching on this tricky 100% polyester material. Both the top stitching, there it is, top stitching, and the lock stitching as well. Yeah. So now we've gone through two different types of polyester, and we've gotten a feeling for how the machine reacts to the same material. It's simply been manufactured in a different way. When you go from something that's made to look like a fleece, and it's real push, real flush, and it's just kind of puffy like that, isn't it? It's almost like a cotton ball. and then you go to a flat type polyester like this, where they're opposite in their appearance, but they're made from exactly the same material. Just a matter of the manufacturing. Well, we had to make subtle adjustments on this, didn't we, to get the stitch quality that we wanted, because of the way the machine and the needle respond to this manufacturing difference. Yeah. So I'm going to put these back over here. This is our sew-off sandwich so far. Everything from 100% cotton with quilt batting to that upholstery material, the red stuff, that has a heavy concentration of recycled nylon and polyester. And then we've got 8 layers of 100% cotton. We've got, gosh, we got so many things going on here. Some of these are off camera as well. And then, of course, we did the polyester made to look like fleece as well. So we're starting to get a little bit of a sandwich now, aren't we? And we'll enjoy a little bit more music while I rest my voice. But I hope you're getting a deeper appreciation for the Japanese clone type machines. Really opens up your eyes, I think, to possibilities, doesn't it? Opens your eyes up to possibilities.
Finally, a song we recognize as associated with the new year. I think it's the first one, isn't it? Well, they've got their own flavor, don't they? I think we'll go after a little bit of leather now. And I got some of this this veg tan leather that I've shown you several times. Adjust those lights above just real quick here. See if that helps. So we got this veg tan leather. We're going to give this a try. I'll do a single layer, and then I'll try to go up to 2 layers with this Japanese clone, okay? Yeah, perfect ending on the song. All right, so we're going to see how we do on maintaining stitch length integrity. A little bit further underneath the presser foot. Real good clearance on these Japanese clone machines as well. And again, if you use the cheater's method and hit that quick release on the presser foot pressure, you can raise that presser foot virtually as high as you want to go to slide something through that's a little bit thicker than the normal range of motion for that presser foot to raise. So you really do have a lot of options, And also, not all the Japanese clone machines, but this one, if I come in closer and adjust the camera angle a little bit, this one also has a hyperextension, as I refer to it. When you raise your presser foot, if you push it a little bit out of boundary from the normal range, you can gain on this machine about 2 to 3 millimeters. See that? But again, if we take the presser foot pressure off completely and we hit that quick release, we could push this up probably another 4 or 5 millimeters beyond that. So the hyperextension is really a wonderful thing to have. Give you a little bit more clearance as you're sewing some of those thicker, bulkier materials. And I think that camera angle is pretty good. I think we'll leave it right about there. Come in maybe just a tiny little bit. Yeah, right about there. All right, a little bit more New Year's music. Same song, just a little bit different flavor of it, huh? All right, so we're going to be sewing a single layer of veg tan leather now. And again, I'm sewing with an 8012 Microtex needle by Walmart's brand Hello Hobby. Microtex can pull off a leather sew off, but it's not really the ideal needle for that sewing. We'd be better off with a universal. But as I've shared, we've had mixed results with the Hello Hobby universal needles, and I know that they're a work in progress, as Sue said in her email. But until they get it right, we're not going to be using the universals. We'll stick with the Microtex and the Schmetz universal needles. All right, here we go. Veg tan leather, single layer, probably around 3 ounces, about 3 ounces of leather. And we'll see how our Japanese clone does on this. And you'll notice I'm not giving the Japanese clone a hand start on any of the sew-offs. I'm not giving it a hand start. I'm gonna come out a little bit wider so you can see both my hands. It doesn't need it. I didn't go into the engine on this machine, which I probably should have said nearer the beginning. But this particular Japanese clone machine, and they're all different as far as the motors that they ended up installing on them. Some of them were motors that were actually made in Japan. Others were American motors put on the machine once it came to the market in the United States. But this particular motor on here is a 1 amp motor. And the foot controller that it's married with is a Mercury style foot controller that's rated for 1.2 amps. So it really is a very nice setup on this machine, appropriate to the motor and the foot controller. Tenielle, as an experienced seamstress and a gifted sewist, will be able to use this machine in a variety of ways and not experience any issues with power or with the issue of the foot controller overheating. So that's really that's the problem you run into, isn't it, when you've got machines that have a mix match of types of foot controllers and motors, is getting it right on that amperage factor. The foot controller always needs to have a higher amperage tolerance than the motor because it's the gateway for the electricity. The electricity flows through the foot controller and then it's released to the motor. If it doesn't have enough to feed that hungry motor, then you're not going to get the full power. If it has too little and the motor is more demanding, then it's going to cause that foot controller to overheat, especially at slow sewing. So, all right, let's give this a go. This is our veg tan leather. And I didn't go slow because we had to go slow. I went slow just to show you that even with a 1 amp motor, this machine can be harnessed back. You can manage that power. And that's really important when you're dealing with more targeted strategic type sewing, right? So let's look at the stitch quality, which I think you'll be very impressed with. And then we're going to add that second layer to see what we see. And this material is bright enough and friendly enough to the camera. I think I might be able to zoom right in on them. Let me just shift it a little bit more. So again, we're looking at veg tan leather, a very popular leather with my friend now out in the high desert of California that has worked with celebrities on different leather projects. He loves his veg tan leather. Talking about my friend Dusty. Dusty loves veg tan leather because it's such a versatile leather. It's so easy to work with and create different applications, different projects with it. And it displays stitching gorgeous. Don't you agree? So this is our stitching, our longest stitching on this veg tan leather. Absolutely spot on. Folks, I don't know how we can make that better. Maybe with a walking foot. And again, if you look at the edge there, you can see the density of that leather. But that is a absolutely drop-dead gorgeous stitch. The spacing, the formation, the integrity of the stitch is exactly what we want to be seeing. Now I say it all the time, the lock stitch is always going to be harder to sew because that Hello Hobby needle needs to sweep all the way through this veg tan leather and pull that thread back up again.
So what is our lock stitch going to look like? Is it going to be compromised? Is it going to be less page 34? I don't think so. I think this Microtex needle, I think they've done an excellent job of engineering this needle, and I think it'll probably deliver a beautiful outcome. Let's take a look at this, the back nap side of this leather now, and see what we think of that stitch quality. See if we can get nice and close on it. I don't know what you're seeing, but I'm seeing a gorgeous, gorgeous lock stitch. Very, very nice. Spacing, the formation, the integrity of the stitch, the glory of the stitch is like, wow. I call this the bragging rights stitch. You get a stitch like this on a product that you're selling or a product that you're gifting to someone. They're going to take notice of it, even if they don't know a thing about sewing. People know what looks good. And even the person that knows nothing about a sewing machine is going to pick a product that has a superior looking stitch quality on it over another product that has a less superior stitch quality. And this would be a major selling point right here. Pause for a second. Get my camera, my hand off the camera. We tighten down that vertical stabilizer a little bit. I'm learning this tripod more, but I'm still figuring it out a little bit. And I'm almost seeing here, as you look at this cluster of stitches right in the center of the screen, if we were sewing a ton of this veg tan leather, we might even adjust our upper tension back just a little bit. As you look at the gap point between the stitches, where you have the needle pass-through point, you can see on certain parts of the stitches there's a little bit more of a gap than there typically would be. That's an indication that the upper tension is pulling too hard. And when it pulls too hard, what it does is it actually compresses that stitch a little bit. And we can actually check the length of these. I think we're going to be real close again to that 6 stitches per inch. But you lose a little bit of the fullness of the stitch if your tension is pulling too hard either direction. If that bobbin case is pulling too hard below, you might shorten that top stitch just a tiny little bit and take away a little bit of the glory and the greatness of it. If that upper tension is pulling up a little bit too hard, you might steal a little bit of the glory and the greatness of that lock stitch. Remember, it's like a tug of war, but you want to have them pulling evenly between themselves, not one pulling harder than the other, because you might still have good looking stitches, but you won't have great looking stitches. And so we always want to try to angle towards making things better, right? We always want to make things better and not be satisfied with saying those are great stitches when we could make them even better. But I think that they are quite excellent. They're quite excellent. Both this lock stitch that we're looking at in totality, semi-totality, and also this top stitch as well. It's really quite spectacular. Really quite brag-worthy. So can a Microtex needle... I was going to say, can a Microtex needle sew? Now I'm going to say, can a Microtex needle hold up the material? Maybe. It's more the presser foot probably. But can a Microtex needle effectively... Come on, be good. I'll put the clippers there to muscle you. All right, there you go. Now try to move. I shouldn't say that, it probably will. Can a Microtex needle pull off a veg tan leather sew-off? Yes, it can. And the advantage it has, again, is that it has an ultra sharp point. Ultra sharp point when we talk about the anatomy of the needle. And that's why, in my opinion, it could be a very effective quilter's needle. It could be an effective leather sewing needle. It could be an effective practically anything, as you'll see as we go through a field of sew-offs in getting the job done. But again, all needles have a fail point, so just be aware of that and change the needles as needed so that you can maintain great stitch quality. But this is solid page 34 plus stitching that this Japanese clone that's branded Midwest. It's branded Midwest, sewed. And again, if you joined us late in this premiere, I do take the issue a blog that Susie would have put the link to in the live chat that claims that there were over 5,000 brands of Japanese clone machines made in the 40s, 50s, etc. I would argue if you push it, it's in the hundreds, definitely not in the thousands. So, all right, let's move on to our double sew-off now. Now we're going to try to go through 2 layers of this veg tan leather with this Japanese clone machine using this Walmart private brand Hello Hobby needle, Microtech style.
All right. A little bit more New Year's-y type music. See what I can find here. Oh, we'll do Old Lang Syne with vocals. This will be vocals this time. So if you love vocal music, here you go. That's a serious sew-off, folks.
Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and of old lang syne? For old lang syne, my dear, for old lang syne, we'll take a cup of kindness yet for old lang syne.
All right, I'm going to cut her off. I'm not a big fan of her singing. I don't know what you think. I've heard it sung much better by other people. No offense, especially if you're her mother and you're saying, "Hey, thanks for playing my daughter's song." You know, maybe she's got a career in guitar. You never know. But yeah, it didn't touch me. All right, so now we're going to try to do 2 layers of this veg tan leather, and see how this this Midwest Japanese clone machine, and particularly our friends at Walmart, see how their in-house needle, their Hello Hobby needle, Microtech needle. Again, realize this: we're going through the equivalent of probably 10 to 12 ounces of leather. 10 to 12 ounces of leather, and we're using an 80-12 needle, which is what most quilters are going to be using. And yes, quilters can go through a lot of layers. They might have multiple layers of cotton or other blend materials going with the quilt along with the batting, but we're talking about leather here, and we're talking about a Microtech 80-12 needle. So if we can lay down great stitching on this veg tan leather with this Microtech Hello Hobby needle, I think that the people at Walmart, Sue and the CEO, what is his name, Doug? Yeah, Sue and Doug, especially Doug's family members that do sewing. Doug, again, is the CEO of Walmart, and Sue says that his family he's got sewers in his family. And they watch the channel, they love the channel, and they also love the fact that we're giving their private brand needle an opportunity to shine. And that's really the goal. Our goal is not to, sometimes I will badmouth a needle if it does a crummy job, but what did they say? Even a broken clock is right twice a day. So people will have to re-engineer a needle sometimes to meet the needs of their sewers when it's not meeting the grade. And that's really my motivation, is to push Walmart or other manufacturers of needles to the point where they see the feedback as a positive step up, not a step away or step down. I want them to be gratified by us taking time to showcase their needle and give them feedback on it so they can improve it even more. So maybe someday Hello Hobby will be synonymous with the quality we associate with a Schmetz needle, right? Wouldn't that be cool to have an American-made needle made through the Walmart brand that would be able to run toe and toe and leg and up and all that sort of thing with a world famous needle like a Schmetz needle. And no offense to our Schmetz friends either, who follow this channel and follow Facebook as well for Cow Country, but it's always great to have a backup, isn't it? It's always great to celebrate greatness in any product or in any sewing machine, including a Japanese clone like this. Hope that makes sense. So let's hope for celebration. And what I'm going to do to set us up for even more success is I'm also going to bump up our presser foot pressure a little bit as well. And that's done very simply. See if I can move the camera up. There it is. Done very simply. You can see we've got a little bit more to go. I'm going to push it down a little bit further. Actually, almost to the max. It's probably nearly at the max. And that way we can maintain the fullness and the beauty of those stitches. Or at least attempt to. All right, so keep your fingers and toes crossed for our friends at Walmart as we attempt 2 layers of edge tan leather using their Microtex Hello Hobby needle. And again, I'm going to try to do this without a hand start. I'm going to come in nice and close, come a little bit wider so you can see both of my hands. There we go. See both my hands. And again, give a little thread hold on that so we don't get that bird nesting on the bottom, and let's give this a go. Again, this particular Japanese clone machine that is branded Midwest has a 1 amp motor, and I went through that motor as well as you'll see in the still shots that I'll post on Facebook and optimize that motor so it's got a lot of get up and go. A lot of get up and go. All right, let's give this a try, see what we get. Here we go. We had a little bit of a tension issue with that top stitch. So I'm going to make an adjustment. We're going to sew it one more time. We lost our definition going across these 2 layers with this Microtex needle. Let me make an adjustment, see if we can rein that back in again. Yeah, we lost it right through there. You can barely see it on the edge, but we lost that. We did okay on the lock stitch. The lock stitch maintained most of its form, but we're going to have to back off that upper tension, see if that's enough. It might not be enough. It might not be enough, and plus, giving fairness to the needle, I've worked this needle quite a bit already. I just want to double check. So I'm going to put let me give my marker, I'm going to dot the second row through 2 layers. And then we'll put another one next to it, see if we can adjust the upper tension and rein that top stitch in just a little bit more. So you can see that dot. This first row is the one we did through a single layer, then we just did the 2 layers. We lost our definition on top stitching, so we're going to back off that upper tension a little bit. Hopefully we don't lose our lock stitch in the process, but 2 layers of edge tan leather might be a little bit too much for this Microtex needle as we've been wearing it down a little bit more. Let's give it a go again. All right, so I'm backing off that upper tension, backing it off. Probably a good 2 points. I took it down from its highest point down by about 2. We'll see if that helps. I'm also going to slow my sewing rate down a little bit so that when that needle sweeps down, it has a little bit more time to tighten that thread up for the top stitch, and we'll see how we do this time. All right, here we go. Second run, and we'll see if we can clarify that stitch a little bit. I'm not going to change the needle unless we have skip stitching. So this is a product of the density of the veg tan leather in relation to the anatomy of the Microtex needle. We've adjusted the tension. That's all we can do at this point. We'll see if it makes a difference, okay? We'll see if it makes a difference. Check my camera angle. Good. All right, here we go. Take 2. 2 layers veg tan leather, Hello Hobby Microtex needle. Here we go. Slow it down, slow it down. So yes, rate of sewing when you're going through certain materials
can also be a factor. You'll see that right now as we look at these stitches. You can see that in the shot. Compare that second row where I had the upper tension up a little bit higher. I just turned it back. Oh wow, I didn't do such a great job of holding the thread. We'll look at that on the back side, but that's okay. And now we've got much better definition on that top stitch through these 2 layers of veg tan leather. Much better definition. So watch your rate of speed of sewing too when you're trying to sew certain materials with certain types of needles. It can have an impact as well on stitch quality. All right, let's take a look at all of these and we'll kind of discuss them and learn from what we just did in our sew off. All right, hopefully those will hold it up while we look at this. So the bottom, as you're looking at this sew off, the bottommost row is the first one we did through a single layer. The middle row is 2 layers of veg tan leather before I adjusted the upper tension. Adjusted it back a little bit to give more pull down to that top stitch. And then the top one is after I adjusted that back tension, or that top stitch. The top row, let me get my head straight here. The top row is after I adjusted the upper tension back so that we could get more definition on the top stitch. And I also slowed the rate of speed down as well on the sew off so that that hook had a little bit more recovery time as that needle was sweeping down through these 2 thick layers of veg tan leather. Think of it like, you know, the natural drape of the thread as it passes down through these 2 layers of thread. It has to have a long enough time to drape in that microsecond for that hook to properly catch it and to pull that thread taut. If you're going too fast, the hook will catch the thread, but it doesn't have a chance to refine that tension of the thread in association with the upper tension and the bobbin case. It's a process that happens in microseconds, but when we give it a little bit more recovery time, all of a sudden we notice a big difference. At least I think you'll notice a big difference. This is one of those lessons that we learn through the process of challenge and failure. More challenge and failure. But it gives our friends at Walmart a chance to celebrate that their needle is doing something that many other needles cannot do. Many other needles cannot do it. I'm going to angle that camera just a little bit more and adjust this just a little bit more. There we go. And if we can't see the definition here clearly enough, then we're going to go ahead and come off the tripod. What I really want you to see is the difference between that middle row and the top row. And all we changed was the upper tension. We turned it back a little bit. And we also slowed, excuse me, you can hear that cold still kind of working through me. We changed the rate of speed of sewing a little bit. We gave that hook system a little bit more time to do its job in conjunction with the take-up arm, the take-up spring, and the upper tension unit. If we try to rush things, the old saying, haste makes waste, the middle row is a demonstration of waste from a standpoint of stitch quality. But through a couple simple little adjustments, didn't take much effort, didn't take any ingenuity, a little bit of ingenuity. I knew what to do. You would have known what to do because you're smart and you spend a lot of time in our classroom. We learn together, we share ideas, we learn from each other. And so you would have known, wait a second, we just sewed that second row right there and I'm seeing a real weak stitch definition on that top stitch. That upper tension is being a bully. We got to take some of its power away. And that's what we did. We took the power away, and all of a sudden you can go from a stitch that is undefined, take my hand off, compare it to the one above. Isn't that cool? Isn't it great to learn how to manage your machine And more importantly, how to give your machine the opportunity for greatness. Machines deserve greatness. They want it. They thirst it. They crave after it. It doesn't matter if they're a Japanese clone or a $14,000 quilting machine by Viking Husqvarna at Joann's for sale. They want to be able to lay down page 34 plus stitching. And that's what we achieved through making a few subtle adjustments. Let's go all the way across and look at them. What a difference, huh? What a crazy difference. And even here towards the end, if you look at that middle row, I started out a little bit slower. And even before we made the tension adjustment, look at those two rows on the far right. They're real close. So it shows you the caliber and the quality of these Japanese clone machines and their engineering. Even when they're set at a disadvantage, they continue to try to stretch their wings and fly. Look at that. Amazing. Not enough tension. Sewing too fast. But then when I kept that sewing rate going fast, it just went south, didn't it? That middle row. That middle row is like, where's the stitch? Then you look at that top row and you go, there it is. There it is. So my kudos to the folks at Walmart. My kudos to Sue and Paul for having the courage to develop their own private brand needle. And the fact that they recognize that it isn't a finished product yet. They're continuing to improve on it. I think they've nailed it with their Microtex needle. Does it mean that it's as good as it can be? No. Please, improve it more. Improve it more. But you've got bragging rights when your Microtex needle, a size 80-12, can deliver stitching like this through this much veg tan leather. We're talking 10 to 12 ounces of leather. If I tip it a little bit towards the screen, turn the screen around so I know where I'm looking. So this side, this side. That's a lot of leather, folks. That's a lot of leather that this Microtex needle just delivered on. Along with, of course, Tenielle's Workshop Magic Overflowing Japanese clone machine just did as well. Fabulous job. And I really beat this needle up too. I'm not going to give the people at Walmart any breaks. I'm going to push their needle as hard as I would push a Schmetz needle. And I mean, you can see for yourself. Look at that top row. 2 layers. 2 layers. But see, again, someone that didn't have our knowledge on vintage sewing machines, they may have gone for those 2 layers straight away and gotten that result in the middle that you can see right there. And they would have said, oh, this is a crummy needle. Or this is a crummy sewing machine. Not realizing that through a couple of simple adjustments, the rate of sewing and the upper tension, you can take something that is mediocrity at best in the middle, and you can make it magnificent. So my hat's off to the folks at Walmart. Keep going. Keep going and develop greatness with your needle line, because Schmetz needles traditionally are thought to be coming out of Germany. It would be great to have a needle of equal or greater caliber coming out of the United States of America, right? That's how Walmart started. Remember that? Walmart started with the belief that Americans make great products, and they would showcase those products from one end of the store to the other proudly. And I have to be a little bit critical of Sue and Paul, since I know that they are in tune with us on this channel. Y'all need to get back to your roots. If you have to engineer them in-house like these Hello Hobby needles, then do that. And bring greatness back to our American products. I know that there's pressures, board of directors, profit margins, Wall Street, all that kind of junk, but operate at a different level. If you deliver greatness through American products, your bottom line is going to be taking care of itself. I mean, do you agree? Let's get back to America, which is where Walmart started, and see if we can get more and more of those great American products on your shelves, along with your needles. And you're going to build loyalty that made Walmart great from the very beginning. Right? There's an evidence of it right there on the top row of that stitch line. That's American ingenuity. That's American greatness right there. Well done. All right, a little bit more sewing to do, and then we're going to wrap up this live stream premiere, because on my memory card for this camera, I only can go about 2 hours and 45 minutes, and I don't want to run out of time before we do our 1812 overture. So I'm going to move these real thick layers of veg tan leather out of the way, give you a quick little flash of our sew-off sandwich. This Hello Hobby needle has really persevered nicely. This is all we've done so far on this premiere live, even though it's pre-recorded. And if you add all this to it off camera, this is what we've done on that needle so far. So I think the folks at Walmart are on the right track. Kudos to Sue and Paul and the rest of the team that are trying to develop this US needle that's going to be able to run neck and neck with Schmetz sometime in the near future. Yeah, all right, a little bit more music. But it's not going to be our vocal lady. I'm not into her. We'll go with the instrumental. All right, let's sew some paper. This is our Amazon packing parchment paper. I think the last time we did like 14 layers. I lose track. But I'm going to do probably the equivalent of that, something like that. Let's see what we can do. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. 14 layers. 14 layers of Amazon Prime packing paper. Packing parchment paper. We're into alliteration today. Yes, we are. So 14 layers. I think that's a fair test on this Japanese clone using this ED12 Microtex needle. All right, let's give this a go. See how we do. I'm going to keep the music rolling. Keep the music rolling. That's a lot of paper, folks. I don't care how you slice or dice it. Paper is a very difficult material product to get through. And we're going through, what did I say? I lost track. 14 layers? I think it was 14. 14 layers. You can look at it from the side. All right, let's see how our needle holds up. Our machine should have no difficulty. Perfect timing. Music ends. All right, here we go. No hand start. Just went after it and got it done very, very nicely. Although I am seeing that we, on this paper at least, we'll take a look at it, but I think we could improve that top stitch even more. And again, if we can't get the adjustments we want through the upper tension, we can always go down to the bobbin case and make adjustments there. But I think our upper tension is maybe being a little bit dominant again. I might adjust it back just a tiny little bit. We'll sew this off one more time on this Amazon Prime packing parchment paper. And we'll see if we can make a significant impact in the stitch quality and make it even more defined. See how we can do. Also, we'll adjust my rate of sewing also. I'll slow it down just a little bit. All right, here we go. And that makes a difference. The rate of sewing, yeah, we got some good looking stitching. I'll show you both rows and you can give me feedback in the live chat as far as what you're seeing, but I'm loving that. I'm going to put a dot by our second row so we can be clear on where that was. Also on the back side as well, we'll put a little dot on there. And then we'll take a look at these two stitch lines. But if you haven't had any experience in sewing with a parchment type paper, and there's a lot of options out there. They've got some that are made out of genuine paper. They've got others that are made out of a vinyl type material like I've shown you. This sort of thing. It's made out of a vinyl paper, kind of a mix of the two. If you haven't tried that, you should definitely give it a go because it'll really open up your eyes to the beauty that paper can display as far as stitch quality in that. All right, I'm going to see if this is good enough. Otherwise, we'll come off the tripod and take a look at the stitching that way too. This is real happy paper. It keeps rotating. There we go. I think I got it. Might have it. So the top row is the first row we did. The bottom row is the second row we did. Let's take a look at these and see what we can see. And again, my opinion was that the top row was underserved. And you can actually see the evidence of that. Let me freeze it right there, get my hand off the camera, see if I can get it to stay in position. There we go. You actually can see the evidence of that. And you can see a little bit of the evidence that even on the bottom row, where we could still make additional adjustments, you can see the tip top edge of the knot showing there through those 14 layers of Amazon Prime paper. That tells us that that bobbin case is not pulling down hard enough and that that upper tension is pulling up too hard. We made an adjustment. We improved on it, I think, in the bottom row. As we go across, you'll see that, but we could still go further. We could still go further, and that's the reality when you're going through a wide field of materials. You may have to make those adjustments to try to accommodate that sew-off. On the top row, you can see it's very, very undefined. Had a couple little moments there where it really popped through nicely, right there on the end, with that first sew-off. But other places, it's, you know, it's hard to see that definition. But that's something we can easily correct by additional adjustments, either adjusting the bobbin case up or bringing that upper tension down. All right, let's go to the other side now where we're going to see an over poppiness with that lock stitch. There we go. I got it stable finally. Let's take a look at that back side now. That lock stitch. So the top row is the first row we did. The bottom row is the second row we did. And again, the thing when you're adjusting that upper tension to accommodate the top stitch is you can only go so far. And then what you're going to start doing as you adjust it down, you're going to give some of that definition back to the top stitch, but you're going to lose the definition on the lock stitch. And that's where you have to do adjustments on the bobbin case to accommodate that. Well, let's go across and look at these, see what we think. And again, when you're going through this much paper, we would definitely benefit from a larger size needle. You can see how small those holes are. That's not a lot of room to pull that thread through all those layers of paper and maintain great stitch quality. We would be better off with a 90-14 or even possibly a 116 type needle as well. Size 100, size 16. But for that much paper and this needle already getting a good workout, I think it's done an excellent job. I think it's done an excellent job. You see what I mean? If you zero in right there in the middle of the screen, if I can get this to hold. Okay, it's not really the middle of the screen, it's more the left middle of the screen. Let me see if I can get it more towards the middle. Okay, almost in the middle of the screen, a little bit to the right, you'll see where there's a little bit of a loopiness on that lower row of stitching. You can see it's not as tight as it should be. Hold on a second. It's not as tight as it should be. That's because we've been backing off the upper tension that affects that lock stitch but gives us more definition back to that top stitch. That's where I'm saying when you go too far, you can start to lose the greatness of the lock stitch. And that's where you have to pull that bobbin case out and adjust that up instead of adjusting the upper tension further down. You can't keep going and going and going and expect to bring greatness to that top stitch, but steal and steal and steal from what the upper tension is trying to do to define that lock stitch. Does that make sense? There's got to be a balance and a breaking point where you can only take that adjustment so far using the upper tension, and then you've got to slide over to that bobbin case. A lot of you are not comfortable with that yet, I get it, but realize that it's just another tool in your toolbox to try to ratchet in that stitch quality and be able to sew a wider, diverse field of materials while you're still comfortable making those adjustments to maintain stitch quality. So don't be intimidated by it. See it as a tool, see it as an opportunity. Much like I see the feedback we give to Walmart on their needle as an opportunity for them, as long as they embrace it in the right way. But all in all, when you're talking about this many layers of Amazon Prime packing paper parchment, I think I'm saying that right, the machine and the needle did an excellent job. We're just looking at some tension issues that we would have to mitigate in order to get a good balance between top and bottom, which we can certainly do. Yeah, all right, come out on this. Give my voice just a little bit of a rest, and then we're going to be moving into our final stretch on sew-offs. Final stretch. Yeah. Yeah, when you look at these from the side, you can see the definition starting to come through on that paper, but not quite enough pull down. Not quite enough pull down to define it. Not quite enough. Real close. All right, I'm going to adjust that upper tension back, because now we're going back towards leather and denim. I think we're going to do some denim now. We'll get a barometer, because we've messed around with our tension several times. We're going to get a barometer of 2 layers. I'll go ahead and tear that out, and then we'll go up to 6 or 8 layers. So we'll start with 2, and then we'll tear it out. We'll go up to 6 or 8. But I want to get a barometer for that that tension first to see how we're doing. All right, a little bit more instrumental, I think. Oh, I bet you I know what happened. All right, let me go check something else. Aha! And that happens sometimes with these bobbins. What a great lesson. We were making adjustments, and we were still having an impact, but we weren't making enough of an impact. Once in a while, especially on these larger class 15 bobbins, the thread will slide out of position on that tension band. And that's exactly what happened here. That's exactly what happened here. So, now we know why we were battling getting definition on that top stitch, don't we? Now we know. You get that back into position so that band can do its job. And we'll try doing a couple of these sew-offs, possibly again. There's the reality. Dig a little bit deeper sometimes. We were looking at the surface and we didn't dig quite deep enough, did we? We didn't dig quite deep enough to identify what the issue was. Let's try it again. So once in a while your thread can work its way out from underneath that tension band. That's what happened in our case. It's not the first time it's happened. It's not the first time that it's happened, is it? Let's bring that Amazon Prime packing paper out one more time and see what we can get as far as result now. Get that back into position. I'm going to put black dots by the 2 that we've already done. And we're going to do a 3rd row now and see what result we can get. Talk about the resiliency, though, of a Japanese clone machine. With the thread falling out of that tension band track completely and being fed basically from the side with literally no tension at all to define that top stitch, it was still trying to deliver results instead of creating some sort of a bird nest or a binding or something like that. It really speaks highly of the quality and the caliber of this oscillating hook system. All right, let me try this again. I've adjusted my upper tension back a little bit again just to give it a little bit of an edge, but I don't think it's going to need it. And we'll sew down this row again and see what result we get. All right, here we go. Like I always say, sometimes a teacher, and especially as we start a new year, I want all of you that are new to cow country to hear this. Sometimes a teacher, always a student. Always a student. We learn as we go along sometimes, and we discover new things that shock and amaze us as we look at the greatness of a machine. Wait until you see, by our discovery of what happened to the bobbin case, wait until you see what we just did. And that tells me that we can do the same thing to any of the other materials that we struggle with as well. Going back to the basics, right? We all talk about changing out the needle. We talk about rethreading. But when most of us are talking about rethreading, we're talking about the upper part of the machine, that crazy threading matrix that I showed you on this Japanese clone with the thread crissing and crossing and everything else. But we don't look down at that bobbin case, and we should. I'm glad we did. Now you can see what we just created through our discovery. All right? So we were accepting a little bit of a challenge. We were maybe even questioning whether or not the needle was still doing its job. Now we can see, and we're almost out of time, it looks like. Looks like I'm almost out of time, so I'm going to wrap this up real quick and show you this success. Look at that top row. Ha ha! What a difference. What a difference. That's our top stitch, y'all. We may not have time for the 1812 Overture. My card is almost full. Maybe I'll get a new camera in the new year. Now here's our other side. And again, the last row we just did is going to be the top row. So you can see we didn't sacrifice the lock stitch at all. We didn't sacrifice the lock stitch. And we still got a gorgeous top stitch. Look at the quality of that when the upper tension unit and the bobbin case are working together cooperatively. We even improve the lock stitch in the process through these 14 layers of Amazon Prime packing paper parchment. It looks like I have 2 minutes left, you guys, according to my camera. So I'm going to quickly see if we can do some denim, but we may run out of time. So if the camera just ends, I apologize, but it's the limitations. I have the biggest memory card this camera will handle, and we're at the max. So we have less than 2 minutes left. All right, let me see what I can squeeze in. But Happy New Year to everybody. Thank you to the leadership team for taking care of the family. Thank you to Walmart for your great response about your needles and our opportunity to showcase the majesty of these needles through all of these sew-offs. See if we can go through this denim real quick, and then we'll wrap this up. We just won't do an 1812 overture this time. So let me grab some more denim. I'm going to pull that one apart. That stitching is real solid. All right, let's just go straight to, we'll go straight to 6 layers of denim, hopefully before the camera goes dead. We're down to 1 minute. We're down to 1 minute according to the camera. So God bless everybody. There's our 2 layers, our 4 layers, and our 6 layers. I think that's 6 layers, maybe 6 layers. All right, let's see if we can pull this off real quick. Give this Hello Hobby a needle a chance to showcase itself one more time before we consider this done. Here we go. I forgot to hold the thread. Haha! I forgot to hold the material. I wasn't holding anything. What the heck? Oh yeah, beautiful stitching. I failed to do a couple of things, but still, the machine and the needle and the system and all did a brilliant job. I don't know if you can see that. Beautiful stitching. Beautiful stitching through 6 layers of heavy grade denim. So I don't think we have any time left. I think we're just about done. God bless everybody. Take care and see ya. Happy New Year.